How's everybody doing today? You're watching Slot Car Mayhem. I'm John, and this will be episode 28 of the Glendale 65. And today what we're going to talk about is audio and getting the audio system upgraded into phase 2. If you refer back to episode 15, where I went through a bunch of items about things I needed to do, punch list items, one of them is getting the audio into what I refer to as phase 2. So before we step trackside and I show you the components, the hows, and the whys I'm going to be doing this, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Slam that notification icon. We're going to have a lot of strange content like this coming up, and you don't want to miss any of that. So let's go ahead and step trackside. I'll show you what we have and what we're going to do. Okay, here I have some of the basic componentry laid out for what we're doing for the audio. Here I have the mixer, and we'll get into that here in a minute. I have various different types of cords and cables to make my interconnections. Here I have one of the Bluetooth receiver chips, and I've got 3 of those, and I'll be getting some more actually to do a few other things. These are very inexpensive. They're like $9 for a pack of 3. So they work very well. There's about 250 milliseconds of latency, but that I'm using to my advantage actually, and I'm not concerned with it. I've got one specialized cable here, which is 2 stereo 1/4-inch monos into a USB with a ADC chip built in that I can plug into the laptop, and I can get full stereo recording out of the mixer when we're running races and things like that. So hopefully that ought to be quite interesting. And then I've just got my standard cables for doing my general hookups. And these are the condenser microphones I'm going to be using as overheads. So let's go ahead and take a look at the mixer itself, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with the mixer and how I'm going to make my connections. And maybe you can understand what I'm doing here a little bit better. Okay, here we are looking at the mixer itself for more of a detailed close-up view. And in my case, I'm using the Behringer 1202. The reason why I chose this mixer is this will do everything I want with the tiniest bit of room for additional expansion if I decide to go ahead and expand things a little bit further. There's no bells and whistles. It's very minimalistic here. There's no onboard effects or Bluetooth or anything like that. And I picked this unit up brand new in the box for 99 bucks. So they're not overly expensive, but they do perform very well. They do a great job. And this will do everything I want for controlling the audio. That being said, if you've never used a mixer before, they can look a little daunting, a little intimidating with all the knobs and all the jacks, and you don't know, where do I even start? It's actually very simple. We have 2 types of inputs here. We've got 4, as you can see up here. These are microphone level inputs, and these can be line level inputs, it doesn't matter. But this whole row right here, this is one channel, so you can plug an XLR microphone or a line-in source, doesn't matter, but you can only plug in one or the other. You can't plug 2 things into here, only one will take effect. So you plug your input source into here, you have a gain knob to control how hot the signal is, and you don't want it to clip or anything, so you can check it with that. Then here we got all these knobs. What in the world do these do? These top 3 knobs, these are very simple. These are your tone controls, your high frequency, your mids, and your lows. And you can boost them or you can cut them. Very simple. The red knobs are not going to be used in this application at all. These are for your effects send. And I will not be using any exterior effects. So there's no reason to even utilize them because they're not going to do anything for you. Here we have the black knob. This is a stereo pan left or right. Since you're running a mono signal in here, you can decide where you want it in the stereo field, and you can place it right in the range that you want. Those work great. And this is your general volume control here that controls the volume within the mix in relation to other items. Very simple. So I have 4 microphone preamp inputs. The second type of input, and it's another reason why I chose this particular mixer, is we also have 4 channels of stereo input. And that's these 4 right here. We've got left and right. So we have another 4 channels of stereo input. That gives us 4 mono channels and 8 additional left and rights, making a total of 12 channels. Even though we have 4 stereo channels, each one of these count as 2 channels. And here I would be bringing in the input from the VIM3, my single board computer, which happens to be the device running Smart Race. You could bring your audio in through your device directly out of the headphone jack if you wish. In my case, I'm using Bluetooth. I'm using some of these small Bluetooth receivers to receive the signal, and then it's fed directly into here. So this will be coming out of the VIM3, and our controls here are even more minimalistic. Again, we have the red knob, which we're not using. We have the stereo left and right that we can control the balance, and we have the volume knob to control the volume of that particular channel within the mix. Very simple. And I have 4 of those. So these 2 here will be for the VIM3 or the Smart Race source of your audio. These 2 here will be for here and here will be for the weather controller, and that's where all the thunder and rain sounds and everything come from, and they'll be sourced into here. I'm going to have additional audio channels present for the fast clock, which is going to provide a level of environmental audio, and those will be present here when I get those factored in. And you can see we've got our 4 volume controls to control the 4 channels, and these volume controls control, again, the overall level of each channel within the mix. This is how you blend your volumes together to get them to sound the way you want. Very simple. And what we're going to do, once we have that done, we can just use our slider knob here, and that's the main output, and that will control the volume of the mixed audio going to the audio system, which will be connected right here to the main outputs and will connect directly into the audio system. So it's very simple actually to incorporate this, and it gives you a fine control over your individual volumes, because we're using multiple sources to generate the sound overall in the room that we want. And for our microphone inputs, 2 of these microphones here are going to be used for the overhead microphones, just to capture room sounds when I'm doing more production type of recording for the club itself. I'll have a microphone input here for my wireless lav mic, if that's what I wish to use, and I'll have another additional microphone input that will be connected probably to Bluetooth for the race director's podium, so he can have a microphone and be able to make announcements through the audio system. That's going to take a little bit of work because it's probably going to get some feedback in here, and I'll make sure I get it tailored just right to help reduce or eliminate any potential for feedback. So that's the mixer overall, the Behringer 1202. Some of the one other additional feature that I'll probably take advantage of some point is right here, the red and the white on this right here. These are 2-track in. That means I could run a CD player, MP3, whatever, and just plug it in right up into here, and I can add that sound into the mix. Therefore, if I want to run background music while we're racing, I can do so very simply. So this could be very handy when we're running some of these 4 or 6 hour races, just to have some nice little background music going on in the back, just to keep everybody, you know, awake and sharp if that's what they wish. And that's a club-based thing. Whether or not we want to do it, who knows. But we do have the option for that. So another good little feature there. So that's the Behringer 1202. That's why I'm using this mixer. It'll do everything I want. Very, very little room for additional expansion. And the price was right. And it makes a huge difference in the way the audio functions. And I'm very pleased with the results so far. Okay, here we are. I've got the mixer temporarily hooked up here. You can see here and here. Let's see if I can move that out of the way a little bit. Here and here I have my connections from the VIM3 through the Bluetooth module. It plugs into this cord here, and then the cord plugs in to the mixer, of course. Same thing here. These are for the weather controller. And of course I have my audio outs going to the direct plug into the audio system. And you can see from the knob controls here, I've got everything turned down right now, but I can go ahead and just start. And now you can hear the smart race running, and we'll turn that down a little bit, just about right there, so you can kind of barely hear it, hopefully. And then if I want to bring in the weather, now you can hear the weather kicking in. Let's see if we can throw a little bit of thunder in the mix. There we go. So you can hear how all this is starting to tie in, and the sound that you're hearing is just what's being picked up from room sound on the lavalier mic alone. So it's not, you know, the best sound in the world, and it's mono, I'm sure. We'll go ahead and turn everything back down a little bit. But that's how it works. And if I want to turn the weather up really loud, I can do so. Likewise, if I want to turn the smart race up, I can, and get them in proportion to one another. And then I can control the overall volume with the slider right here. So that's why I'm using the mixer, so I can fine-tune my volumes and make them match one another and put them in proportion to each other. Then I can control the overall volume, get that set where I want with the main slider. Now, that being said, generally the mixer itself won't be easily accessible. It will live underneath the drawers that I have here, and it'll be actually behind the curtain. It'll be on a little drawer system of its own, and I will pull it out, make any additional adjustments I need to make, and I'll push it back in. That way it's out of its way, it's not a tripping hazard or anything of that nature, and because really once you set it, you're not going to need to do much else with it. So I'll put it up underneath, it'll stay there. When I need to make additional adjustments or add things to it, I can, and other than that, it'll stay up underneath, down below from where it is now, out of harm's way, where it won't be a tripping hazard or a bumping hazard. And other than that, that's how they kind of tend to work. Very simple overall, and I'm very happy with the end result, that I can fine-tune the level volumes between each of my audio channels, and I can get a decent sound coming out of the audio system itself. Now, for additional recording that I'll be doing, when we're doing club races and things like that, I'm sure a lot of it's going to be videoed, and I'm not going to post all these videos because really there's enough videos of races going on anyway. But what I can do is I can plug directly into the control room out through that cord I showed you earlier that had the 2 jacks, and then it went to the USB with a analog to digital converter built in, and I can plug that into my laptop, and I can get full stereo sound directly out of the mixer, including the room microphones, any lavalier mics, any race director mics. All that can be added in and blended together, and I should be able to get a really good quality recording audio-wise out of it on the laptop in full stereo. So that'll be very handy when we're doing additional recording for club racing. Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll wrap this episode up. Just a quick overview. I've effectively brought the system into phase 2 for the audio. Phase 3 is a whole different discussion, but that involves a 1,000-watt sound system, so we'll get to that when we're ready to go ahead and do that. But I've got a lot more environmental audio to build into the fast clock and get that into the system. And that's going to be things like crickets at night, birds in the morning, depending on weather, things of that nature. General race announcements that are going to sound like they're coming out of the PA systems, things like that. So I'm working on getting all that into the fast clock and getting all that built in. But other than that, the audio quality, I can't express how happy I am that I finally had this accomplished. And all I need to do now is build the drawer mechanism to permanently mount the mixer under the table and make that work. So other than that, it works very well. And yes, I will provide links to all the items in the description, so you can go ahead and grab that stuff. And like I said earlier, go ahead, subscribe, hit that notification. And if you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up. I do the best I can to try to answer everybody. And other than that, everybody just stay safe. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.